Hey, Beady friends, welcome to the Beadalon class for Michaels. I am Meredith Roddy, and I work for Beadalon and Artistic Wire, and I am very happy to be presenting our daisy chain class today. So just a couple of quick housekeeping issues before we get started. We are being recorded, so if you're watching us live, welcome. Say hi in the chat. And I always, if you know me, you know that I like to know if this is your first class with me for Beadalon, or for Beadalon for Michaels, or if you're an old regular by now. I know you by name, and I'll be so excited and so happy to see your comment pop up in the chat. So as I mentioned, this class is being recorded. So if you have, if there's something that I go over too quickly or something that you don't quite understand, about 24 to 48 hours, usually the classes get posted on the Michaels Community Classroom YouTube channel. So you can go back and fast forward and rewind and see anything as many times as you can possibly need to watch it. Additionally, Yvette from Beadalon is here, and she is hanging out in the chat room. So if you have any questions about Beadalon products, about things that you can find at Michaels, about anything that maybe I'm not that clear about, go ahead and drop a note in the chat, and either she or I will be able to get back to you. Let's see, I'm looking over in the chat right now, and it looks like some people are brand new, so welcome to my newbies. And then of course there's some names that I recognize from all of my classes, and I appreciate each and every one of you. So today's class is all about the daisy chain. And you can see on my necklace how fun and dainty it looks. And I'm always excited about teaching classes, but this one is one that is near and dear to my heart, because I have been making daisy chain necklaces since I was probably, I don't know, 10 or 11 years old. And I found one of my very first daisy chain necklaces that I made as a camper. And I love that I'm a little bit of a pack rat, but it's really nice so many years later, now that I am a beading instructor and working at Beadalon and doing all of the things that I do, to still have probably not my first, but definitely a necklace that I made using the daisy chain technique when I was so much younger. It's just interesting to see how everything comes full circle, and the old adage, what's old is new again, because I have seen popping up in my Pinterest feed and on Instagram and in all of the different places that I look for the things. The daisy chain design is actually really becoming ever popular once again. So that just goes to show me that while I might not be kind of in the fashionable realm at the moment, at some point in time, I will be. And this is my time, because I do love a daisy chain necklace or a daisy chain bracelet or an anklet or earrings. Really, what we're going to be learning today is actually two different ways of making a daisy chain. And I'm going to talk a lot about materials, about substitutions, about all of the different ways that you can make this design your own, because that's really what we're trying to do as beaders and as designers, isn't it? We are learning a technique, and then we are trying to make it our own. So I think we are ready, Felicia, to take the overhead camera and talk about what materials we are going to be using for our class today. So not only will we be talking about the materials for class today, but as I mentioned, we are also going to be talking about alternative materials, because if you're anything like me, or you are going to become anything like me, you have a lot of things in your beading stash, right? And while all of us, myself included, love a trip to Michaels, which I'm actually going to be making myself either today or tomorrow for the second or third time this week, but those are my challenges, those are my fun times. We also have a lot of materials in our stash, and sometimes we want to make something right away, right? And more often than not, you can substitute a material for the project at hand. So first and foremost, what I'm going to talk about is what I'm going to be using today. So the WildFire in my spool has gotten it's a little worse for wear since I've used it so much. But this is the WildFire 0.008 diameter. It's the thicker one. We have two diameters. One is a 0.006 and one is a 0.008. And today I'm going to be demonstrating with the black, because as we get into the meat of the tutorial, you will thank me because it will be very easy to see the thread path. If I were using clear monofilament or white WildFire, like I'm going to show you I made in some of the examples, it's not quite as easy to see in the tutorial. So just know that perhaps black might not be the best choice if you're using light colored beads. It is definitely the best choice for me teaching because you'll be able to see it better. So for class and for teaching, you don't know, it doesn't necessarily have to be the prettiest. It just has to be the best one to be seen. So WildFire is a thermally bonded bead weaving thread. It is super strong. It is waterproof. It is it doesn't stretch. So one of the challenges with stringing materials can be that it will stretch over time. This will not stretch. I mentioned that it is waterproof, and the color, it's color fast. So the color doesn't come off in your hands. It's really, really strong and very, very durable and made for beading. So that's the material that I'm going to be using today. I also like it because it's very thread-like and it has a really nice drape to it. Because one of the materials that I have also used for this design and what I used for my original way back in the 80s, probably is when I made this, is a clear monofilament. So I've done a couple of projects for Michaels using our Supplemax brand that you'll find in those stores. And this is, it's akin to fishing line. So what you would find, you know, on your dad's or your husband's or your grandfather's fishing reels, but you don't actually necessarily need to, but you can put a needle onto the Supplemax. And this works great for daisy chain as well. I mentioned that I'm going to be talking a lot about substitutions for your materials today. This is a good one to use for the project. However, when you substitute materials, you also have to keep in mind what those different materials are going to make your finished product look like. So for example, WildFire is very thread-like. So it's going to make for a very drapey and very soft and supple necklace. The monofilament, the Supplemax, is a little stiffer. So your necklace is going to be a little stiffer. The other thing that's great about WildFire and Supplemax is that you can't pierce them with a needle. So if you have a material like embroidery floss or Nemo thread, or even the other material that I brought out to talk about today, dandelion, these materials can all be pierced with a needle. So they all beading materials and all of these different things all have their uses and their benefits and their challenges. And one of the challenges to using something that is a stranded material that isn't bonded like the WildFire is that you can potentially pierce it with a needle. You just have to be careful. So again, these things that we need to think about as we're doing our beading. But my choice today for materials that I'm going to be using is the WildFire. Okay, so that will be our stringing material. Now I will be using, to pick up my seed beads, a jewel loom needle. Now these needles are available in Michaels. They're a little bit longer than perhaps a regular beading needle that you might be used to seeing. I'm just looking to see on my needle magnet. Usually your needles are more kind of this size. So it's a nice long length. And these are great for the jewel loom, but that is a different class for a different day. I really like these because they have a little bit of a larger eye, which makes it easier to thread, which we'll see in just a moment. But if you don't have the jewel loom needles, you can feel free to use a size 10, a size 12, a collapsible eye needle, a big eye needle. Your needle here is really just the tool that you'll use to be able to pick up the seed beads. So it's not that essential that you use a specific type of needle. And I say this and I really emphasize the point, because I know when I was first starting with my beading journey, I would want to follow the pattern to the letter. If it said there was a specific thing in the pattern that I was following, I would want to get that exact specific thing. And that can get very stressful. And it can get very, very limiting in your ability to do your beading. So I always want to make sure that that people know that within, there's variance, but you can generally substitute for your materials and your tools. So the next thing that we are going to need for this project is my trusty Beadalon Findings Variety Pack. So in this variety pack, if you're not familiar with it by now, you should be. There are lobster claw clasps, there are spring rings, there are several different sizes of jump rings, and there are tags. And today, what we are going to be using is a lobster claw clasp and a tag. So that's just going to be our clasp. If you have a toggle clasp, awesome. If you have another kind of clasp, fantastic as well. And even on this project that I did, I used a button and a loop for my clasp. So we're not going to be doing this today, but just know that there are different ways that you can finish off your design. Okay, so we got all of those things, and then we'll also need our either a bent chain nose pliers, a chain nose pliers, some kind of pliers, because what we're going to be doing is flattening our WildFire to get it needled, to get our thread needled. And if you don't know that tip, that's if you take nothing else away from our class today, that will probably be the best thing for you to learn. So the last thing, of course, the fun part, and that is the beads. So for our project today, I used, actually, let me swap this one out. For the project that was posted, and that is this one right here. I thought that was kind of a fun, springy, almost Eastery color combination. And I am using, and I'm going to demonstrate with, these size 8 seed beads from John Bead that are available, of course, in Michael's stores. And I'm going to pause for a moment while I'm talking about John Bead and recommend to everybody. I'm doing the daisy chain class today, but Danielle Wicks from John Bead will be doing a class for Michael's Friday night, doing a variation on this technique, which is super, super fun. I'm actually taking the class too, so hopefully I'll be able to see some familiar faces and names there. So I'm using size 8 seed beads because, for a couple of different reasons, not the least of which is that it will be easier to demonstrate. So again, I'm using the black WildFire, which I might not necessarily use in my design. See here, I use the white, but I'm using that black so that everybody can see the thread path even better. So too am I using those size 8 seed beads. Now, you can certainly use size 11 seed beads for this. And that is actually what this design here is using, the size 11 seed beads. And you can also see, I went a little fancy. I did some little Swarovski crystal rounds in the middle here. So you can certainly use size 11s, but to demonstrate with 11s is generally not quite as easy. And if we need a bigger bead to demonstrate with, I pulled some size 6s out as well, which are available. Of course, at Michael's, because maybe we'll need some bigger beads. We'll just see. But I think that the size 8s are going to be just fine for our demonstration purposes. And those are all of the materials that we need. So let's jump right into it. So the instructions were emailed along with the registration for the class today, and I believe that Yvette has posted them again, and she will also be posting each step as I go for you if you are following along today. And actually, what I would love to know in the comments for my students who are here in class with me today is, are you making along today? This is, it can be, I think we can do a little bit of make along. We're not going to finish a whole necklace because that would be awfully repetitive. And as I mentioned, I am going to show 2 different ways. Oh, and it looks like some people are making along with me. That is fantastic. So my WildFire spool is getting a little worse for wear. I lost my clip, and so it's acting up on me. But what you want to do for the very first step is to pull out about 5 feet of the WildFire. So I generally just take a wingspan. Of course, you can't see me off camera, but I'm taking off a wingspan. And I'm using my scissors, which I did not mention as part of our materials for the project, but it's kind of one of those things that you should always have hanging around on your bead mat anyway. And what I'm going to do here is I'm going to take that WildFire and I am going to use I'm just using my chain nose pliers, but you could, I'm sorry, my bent chain nose pliers, but you could use any chain nose pliers that you have around. And I'm just flattening it. Do you see how that went from that round? You can see the difference here too. And it flattens it out. And this is how you can make your job of needling your thread a million times easier. So I just happen to have out of the package a nice dual loom needle here. And the second thing I do to make my needling job a lot easier is I bring that little teeny tiny end of the WildFire in between my 2 fingers, and I just gently place the needle on top of the eye, or I'm sorry, the needle on top of the WildFire. And then I come here and I take my chain nose pliers and I just pull it through. So there we go. Easy enough, easy way for threading the needle. Now, if you're making a bracelet, I would still start with 5 feet. I believe that I generally have to add thread as I go along, which is as easy as just knotting it on and going from there. But you don't want more than 5 feet, in my opinion, because it just gets a little, it can get a little tangly, and it's better to have less thread and add than to be constantly undoing your knots. Okay, so first things first, we are going to attach our half of our lobster claw. And you can either start with the tag or with the lobster, but I think it's easier to see when we're doing the lobster. So we are getting into the meat of it. And I just want to make sure that we're close enough so that you guys can see, but then also I have enough room to work. So I decided, since I did this really fun color palette here, I'm actually changing my color palette today because it is so beautiful outside. I know that sunflowers is more of kind of an August, September kind of a flower. I don't know. I was just feeling sunflowers today. So we're going to do yellow for our outsides and then brown for our insides. So I am using the size 8. Let's see, where's the color? I know it's here someplace. Here we go. Opaque lemon yellow. And I am also using, this is my favorite mix. I think I have like 5 tubes of this already. It's the apricot mix. And also, as I mentioned, in size 8. So I'm going to pick up 2 greens. Sorry, I should also mention that I'm using this retro blue, which is kind of a misnomer because there's some fun greens in here also. But the retro blue, and these are of course all the size 8 John bead seed beads. So I'm picking up 2 of the greens, and then I'm going to pick up my clasp, and let's move these right here. 2 more of the greens, and you can see, and I know that some people people oftentimes have fears of working with seed beads, and I recommend don't be afraid of the seed beads, because you don't when you see or thread with seed beads, don't pick them up and try to spear them like this. Use a bead mat and then just pick them up just by kind of poking them through with the needle. I try not to take for granted that people know that, because you might not. You might just assume that it's like any other bead. Okay, so now I have on my thread two size 8 seed beads, my lobster clasp, and then two of the other size 8 seed beads. And I believe, okay, and then before I do anything else, I just want to pick up one of my flower color. So depending, and you'll see as this starts building up where the colors start coming in. But so I have my greens, which are going to be the part in the middle here. And then I have my flower color. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to move those beads all the way to the end, less, oh, I don't know, maybe about 4 inches, just enough that it's not going to your beads aren't going to slide off. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back through the beads again. Sometimes when we're explaining thread paths in seed beading, it sounds more complicated than it actually is. Really all I'm doing is I'm just going through the beads once, forming a circle, and coming through the beads again. So all of those beads again. And I'm doing my very, very best not to bump the camera, but to keep everything really, really well in frame. And now I'm just going to tie a knot. So if you've taken classes with me before, you know that I am not afraid, get it, to tie a knot in my thread. Some people are purists when it comes to not tying a knot, but I think in this case, you really want to. So you want to do a surgeon's knot, which is right over left, which is what I did. I'm sorry, right over left. And now right over left once and twice. So just a simple surgeon's knot. If you didn't want to get fancy and just wanted to do an overhand knot, that's okay too. The way that the WildFire is, it's so strong and so well and easily knotted. You don't have to worry about any super fancy knots here. You can just tie an overhand knot or a surgeon's knot and call it a day. And now what I like to do with this little end is to take a thread burner and just making sure that everybody can see and that I don't burn myself. Safety first, friends. And just use that to trim it and seal it. I think everybody saw that. Okay. So now what I need to do is I'm going to go around one more time just to reinforce it. I got to bump my camera up just a little bit. I'm sorry. And come through these 2 beads. And then through my clasp. And really what this is just doing is reinforcing the thread path. Now I will show when I do the second type of daisy chain, I'll show it not attaching the clasp first. But if you want to go back and watch several times, you can just go ahead and wait for the video to be posted, and then you will be in good shape. All right, so here now I have the, I'm back to that beginning part, and I want to go back through that first color that I put on. Okay, and now I'm just going to put that down and take a deep breath. The thread burner should be enough. If you want to come in and put a little dab of Beadalon bead stringing glue or GS hypo cement on that knot, if that will make you feel better, I will not tell you not to do that. I'm not a big gluer generally in my bead work. But if you would like to put a little dab of glue on there, that is perfectly reasonable. Okay, so now we are going to take a deep breath and we are going to get started on our daisy chain design. So we're going to do our first flower. And the way that we do this is we are going to pick up 6 of our main colors. So in this case, yellow, because that's what I started with. So once again, I'm going to come down here and I'm just spearing those beads with my needle and picking them up. So oops, that's 7. So those of you who have maybe challenged eyesight, as I am slowly coming to be, again, don't be afraid of the seed beads. And if 11s are too daunting, start with the 8s like I'm doing. And if 8s are even a little bit daunting, go for 6s. There's no reason why you can't do this design with all different kinds of beads. So I picked up my 6. And now what I'm doing is I'm going to go around and back through that center or that yellow bead. Okay. And then I'm going to come here and I'm going to pull through so that we have a nice circle. You should see how I'm octopusing my arms around here so that everything is working out and nothing is getting tangled up. Okay, so now I have this cute little circle, which is cute in its own right. And I think that you can agree now why using that black thread is so good for the demonstrating purposes. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to pick up my center. So my center is going to be brown because I decided I was going to make some sunflowers. So I was feeling very sunny today because it's such a beautiful day. And now what I'm going to do, and again, this is one of those times when I talk through it, it's like, wait, what is going on, Meredith? But when you actually watch and do it yourself, it becomes very, very simple. So I'm going to skip 1, 2, 3 beads. Okay, let me see if I can get even closer here. This one, and this one. And I'm going to go back through this bead right here. Okay. So not only am I going to go back through this bead, let's do that first so we can see that one, but I'm going to go around all of the beads in the circle. Okay. So this one, then I'm going to go through all of the beads in the circle so that, again, we're reinforcing the thread path. And it's almost, I'm not going to say that because that will complicate things. But I'm going to come back around so that I am once again going through that first bead that I went through. Okay, we're going to do this a couple times and I'm going to explain it in a couple of different ways. And I promise you will get it in the end. So now I have my first daisy, yay! So now what we're going to do is we are going to add the part on the side. Of course, all of my necklaces are getting all tangled up right now. We're going to add this part on the side. Okay, so one of the reasons why I'm doing the daisy chain like this is because I want it to lay a little bit flatter than these daisy chains. And I will show this at the end of the class. Excuse me. I like the kind of freeformness of the way that these daisy chains are, but I also really like how flat and orderly these ones are. So now what we're going to do is we are going to make this little part right here. And that is going to be the start of our next flower. So to do that, what I'm going to do is I'm coming back to the green, right? So I'm going to pick up 1 green bead. I'm going to pick up 1 yellow bead, and then I'm going to pick up another green bead. And much like we did at the beginning, we are going to go through these 2 beads here. Okay. So I'm pulling my needle through those 2 beads, trying not to get my WildFire caught up on my camera. And now what I'm going to be doing is, so I came around, I'm coming out right here, and I'm going to go back through that green bead and back through the yellow bead. And now I'm ready for my next daisy. So really, if you know the beading stitch called right angle weave, all the daisy chain is a variation on the right angle weave. It's just the way that you're making the thread path go in order to get these cute little daisies. And it's not just the thread path, it's also your color changes. So now we're going to start that over again. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 on the yellow. And then we're going to come around and back through that yellow bead that we just did. Okay. And 1, 2, 3, 4, I only picked up 5. So no harm, no foul. We're just going to go back through very carefully. And this is where that non-pierceability of the WildFire comes in very handy, because generally I do not recommend going back through your beads to fix a mistake like that. Generally, what I recommend is to take the needle off and pull your thread through. However, because the WildFire is very difficult to pierce, in this case, it's not that big of a deal. All right, so I'm kind of taking this one up to speed, and then I'm going to break it back down again. And make sure that my thread path is working out. Bead wants to go rogue, but I'm going to get that bead into place where I want it to be. So once again, I'm coming up. So a lot of what this particular way of making the daisy chain is a lot of going around and around and around. But I like that because each time you go around, you're reinforcing your thread path. So every time you do that, you're making your design just that much stronger. Okay, so once again, we're going to start from that very beginning. I'm coming through, and the reason why I'm going through these 2 here rather than just that one is, again, I like the way that this lies flat, and that's really the effect that I was going for when I was deciding which daisy chain I wanted to teach for this class. Okay, so I went down through these 2, and I'm going to come up through green, up through yellow, and now I'm ready for my next daisy. So once again, 6 yellow beads. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I'm going to double check and make sure I got 6 that time and not 5. And then around and back through that bead. Okay. And it's helpful, especially as you're learning, to use as many contrasting colors as you need to be able to see which bead is next. If I were doing this all in one color, it might be a challenge for me to be able to see where my bead is coming, where my needle should be going through next. Sorry. Okay, so now we're going to do the center part again. So let's see, I think if I pull it up like that, we'll be able to all see together. Okay, so now I'm going to pick up 1 brown because that's what I'm doing for my center. And then I'm going to count. So here is where my thread is coming out from. And I'm going to count 1, 2, 3 beads. And I'm going to go through that 4th bead. Okay. So let me pull that through so you can see. And it helps if you just pull it through that first one instead of kind of doing what I did last time and try to cheat and pull it through a couple of them, because then that center is really going to go exactly where you want it to go, right in the center. Okay, but I still need to continue my thread path all the way around to get it ready for that next bead. So as many times as you need to put your needle through, you go ahead and do that. This also helps to tighten it up a little bit. When I was playing around with all the different daisy chain variations that I know, again, I wanted to find the one that was the cleanest and laid the nicest. And this is what I found. All right, so I'm going to show that one last time, and then we're going to move on to showing, well, what I'll do is I will show one more. We're going to show how to finish it off, and then I will show that second technique, a little bonus here for the daisy chain. Okay, so now once again, let's take that out so that I'm not so blurry down at the bottom. I'm going to pick up one green, one yellow, and one green. And I'm going to come around and back through these two seed beads right here. And once again, we have to continue with our thread path so that our needle is coming out of the right bead that's in focus. And that right bead that's in focus is the yellow bead. And Mary makes a very good point. She says that she doesn't see what the point is of using this long needle. It seems a little cumbersome. And I can agree. I can agree and appreciate that comment. I have found that needles are a very personal kind of thing. Some people love longer needles. Some people love shorter needles. When I am doing like peyote stitching or herringbone, I actually prefer a really small needle. For something like this, either size would really work. I find sometimes a longer needle is easier to maneuver, but for you, that might not be the case. So I definitely, I recommend to people, if something isn't working for you, try a different way of doing it. So maybe using a short needle, you're just kind of getting frustrated for whatever reason, try a longer needle. But if the longer needle is just, it's too much for you, try the shorter needle. Sometimes there is a right and a wrong, but oftentimes there's a lot of room for discussion. Okay, so I'm just following my thread path around one more time, and I am going around. And the more times you do this, the more time, the easier it will be to kind of just see where the next bead is that you need to go through. So we are going to pretend that I have done this the entire way. It is as long as I want it to be for either a necklace or for a bracelet. Or wouldn't this be super cute as just some earrings, right? You could maybe do like a little fringy fringe, or you could dangle something off the bottom, or gosh, there's so many different things, but focus, Mary, focus. So we're going to pick up two of the green, and then let's see if we can show that, the small hole of the tag, and then two more green. Okay, so we are just mimicking exactly what we did on that first side, on the second side. And is this the only way to finish off your daisy chain necklace? Certainly not. There are a ton of different finishing techniques that you could use. You could use a wire guardian. You could use, gosh, there are so many different things, but this is how I finished this one off. So that's how I'm going to show it. So two green beads, one tag, 2 green beads. And then once again, just like we did in the beginning, we're going to come through several times to reinforce this. Now, WildFire as a beading thread is incredibly strong. It has a break strength, I think, of 12 pounds, which is very, very strong. And in fact, this is the 008. So yeah, so 12 pounds is the break strength. So think about 12 pounds if you're at the gym and you're lifting 12 pounds, how tight or how heavy that is. But going around a couple more times to reinforce never hurt anyone. Let's see, I just got caught on my button. So let's fix that problem. And so let's see, this daisy chain is made with 2, 4, 6, 7 beads. The one that I'm going to be doing next is actually made with 6 beads around. So depending on your bead size, your design, there are several different counts that you could use. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to come through here and I'm just tying I guess it's what, an overhand knot, a half hitch knot, I can never remember my knot names. I need to, first of all, I need to take this bracelet off because the button keeps snagging on my WildFire. I need to do a brush up on my knot names. I did a Facebook Live and I was tying these complicated leather knots and I was like, I think it's a barrel knot, but I'm not 100% sure what it is. So let's do that one time and another time for good measure. And then, sure, if you want to use a little bit of glue here to secure your knots, that is fantastic. If not, I generally just use a thread burner to cut and seal my ends. And just a quick lesson on a thread burner. You want to make sure that you don't press your burner button down so much so that you burn out the tip or burn out the batteries. All I do is I just gently press it until it warms up, and then I back off. And then I just kind of come in and tap, tap, tap with that warm tip of the thread burner. I taught a class once and we were using the thread burner and I couldn't figure out why nobody's burners were working after the first time. And that is why, because if you use your thread burner to and you just hold that button down within not a very long amount of time at all, it will just burn it out. It doesn't matter what brand it is, if it's Beadalon's brand, if it's another brand, it's just the tool is not meant for being held down. It's really a finessing. So let's pretend that we were making a ring for class today. Isn't that so cute? So we have proven that we can make our daisy chain necklace as a ring, but we can certainly keep at it and and just repeat those steps over and over again, get into the rhythm and the groove of it, and then make a whole necklace. Or if you want it to be a little bit shorter, you can certainly make it a little bit shorter and make a bracelet. So when we have a little bit of time, I do want to show just that one other variation that you might more traditionally know as the daisy chain, but I hope that you also really like this variation that I've showed today, which is it kind of takes it a little more, I don't know if fancy or what is the word for it. It's just different. And I really like that it lays flat, and you can see when they're both next to each other how different a look is from a very, very similar thread path. And again, I always, whenever I'm beading, unless I'm making something really small, I will start with a wingspan, which is about 5 feet for me of beading thread. And that's a good a good place to start. All right, so let's do this just tying it on to a tag to start off with. So once again, I'm just using that 0.008 WildFire, and I'm going to tie an overhand knot here, right here, right over left. I'm actually going to do a surgeon's knot because that's what I like to do. And pull it tight and give a little tug to make sure. And I could come in here with my scissors as well and snip this down. I just like using a cord cutter to both cut and burn that end, or yeah, and seal the end. All right, so let's go ahead and what color shall we use for our, let's just do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And what I'm doing is I'm doing those initial beads right here. Okay. So now I'll do kind of what the more traditional way of doing a daisy chain is, because what is a class if not learning different ways of doing something, right? So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to use these, let's see, I am using purple chalk. So fun, right? Such a perfect purple spring color. And I'm going to pick up 1, 2, 3, 4 of those beads. And then I'm going to pick up my middle color. So I think I'm going to do this kind of fun coppery color from that mix. Okay. So totally different, different thinking about your color placement. So I've got 4 of my petal color and then my middle color. Let's see if I can bring this down just a little bit. And now I'm going to move those against my beads that I just strung. And so now what I'm going to do is talk a little bit about ways to go through beads. So before, our thread path was around and around and around and around. This time our thread path is actually going to be down. So I'm not coming with my needle up this way. I'm actually going down this way. Okay. So again, I'll do it a couple times so that we can see what the difference is. So now we get this kind of funny looking cluster of beads. And I find that it helpful to kind of turn it over. So it's generally going to kind of be a little, it's going to be a little wonky until we get it done. Let's just trust in the process. Okay. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to pick up 2 more of my petal color beads, and I'm going to go through this one right here. Let's see. I'm gonna have to show this a couple times, I think, given the focal and the focus. Okay. So now what that does is it is a 6 bead petal, and I don't have to worry quite as much about going through and around and dealing with thread paths, because now I am set and ready to do my next middle part. So this middle part could be 3, it could be 1, it could be none, but I'm doing 5 just because. So that's my middle part again, and now I'm ready for my next daisy. So once again, all I need to do is 1, 2, 3, 4, and then my middle, which I decided I'm going to do that really cool copper color, and move all of those beads down to the beginning and come back this way. So my initial inclination is always to try to go this way, but you want to come back down toward yourself if you're holding it the way that I am holding it right now. So let's get those pesky beads out of the way. Put that one right in where it goes, and then pull that back toward yourself. Don't stab yourself, but pull it back toward yourself. And so this one kind of moved itself into shape a little bit nicer. So I don't have to fiddle with it so much, but I still need to remember to pick up those 2 other beads and then go through that top bead right here. And when you're making your daisy chains, they'll tell you if you're not doing it right, and if you're quite off. And once you get into the hang of it also, you'll be able to just kind of put on these 5, these 4, and that 1 all together. But again, I think it's easier to see and to learn as we are going along. All right, so now we have, we're going to go back down toward myself, back through that last bead. And if you wanted to reinforce that thread path and go around one more time, that would be fine too. Let's do it and see what happens, see what the difference is in how it looks. So we're going to come through that one. And let's go back around through and see what happens. I always love, especially when I'm teaching classes, but really when I'm kind of puttering around in my workshop by myself, just figuring out that what if we go around one more time to reinforce it again? What happens? What if we change up the colors? What if we use different beads? What if instead of using seed beads, we actually used round beads, or rondelle beads, or super duos, or gosh, I mean, the possibilities are really endless, and it's really just up to, I don't know what's happening here. It looks like I didn't quite tighten everything up as well. So one of the reasons why you can see my thread so well is on purpose, because I am using that black WildFire so that you actually can see the thread, so that you can learn what's going on, right? So over here, this was actually made with that clear Supplemex right over here. So you can't see the thread at all because it is clear, right? It's a little stiffer than using the WildFire or the Dandelion, but you definitely can't see the thread. But on this one, I think it's a nice balance. And again, why this was the focus for our class today is because I use the white WildFire, it really does blend in with the colors, with the light colors of this necklace. And of course, when it's on your neck, nobody is going to see the thread at all, because when it wears a little bit differently. So sure, here you can see the thread, but if I had used the white thread, or I had used a different color of thread that matched my beads a little bit better, it would not be as easy to teach the class, but it also wouldn't be as obvious. All right, so now I'm doing 4 beads. Oh no, I'm doing 5 beads in the center, and then 4 of my color, and then 1 of my center. So you can see once you get into the rhythm of it, you can add the entire first pass for your next daisy spacer to speed up the process a little bit. And depending on the kind of seed beads that you're using, mess around with the number count here. Try 3, try 5. Try adding more on one side and less on the other. I have played around with a lot of different counts and a lot of different combinations. And the one that I like the best is, again, what I did here. But that might not be what you love the best, right? You might like a totally different count. You might like a totally different technique. And if that is the case, let me know. I love learning new ways of doing things, and learning about different ways that different people do things. So now would actually probably be a really good time for me to mention all of the hashtags that you can use to show us your work. So let's see, first there is hashtag Make It with Michaels. Then of course there's Make It with Beadalon, because I am from Beadalon. You can also be sure to follow Michaels on all of the socials, but also follow Beadalon on all of the socials. We've got a lot of great tutorials and a lot of great things for learning and for sharing and for collaborating and for being a part of this great, amazing beading community that we have. So again, we would do this the exact same way to finish off. We're just going to do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. If we wanted to be even, if we didn't have to be even, I'm not going to come slap your wrist. And let's see, do I have another? I do. I have another lobster claw clasp right in here in my handy dandy go-to Beadalon Findings Variety Pack. I find myself reaching for that so often. So now here, what I'm going to do, let's see, what am I going to do? I'm going to come back through here, through all of these, and I'm going to reinforce this thread path by going around the daisy and then back up through here again. It's all about reinforcing the thread path, I feel like, with this. And I do like the idea, I don't remember who mentioned it, but thank you very much, of going through your daisy one more time. I hadn't done that before. I hadn't really thought that it was necessary, but I do like the way that it looks. So again, there's just that what if. What happens if you do it this other way? And that is why I love teaching classes, not only for Michaels, but also for Beadalon and elsewhere. And I love collaborating with designers. So I'm going to come back down through here, and I'm not going to tie it at the clasp. I'm going to tie it down here. It's going to give that knot just a little bit of extra purchase and a little bit of extra security. I'm just going to come through here and tie again that 1 time and then 2 time overhand knot. And then do I want to put a little dab of glue? Sure, a little dab of glue, no problem. And I can also come in here once again with my thread burner, and safety first. Let's make sure everybody can see. Just cut that off and then seal it. And then that should be good to go. So I have made 2 little teeny tiny necklaces today while we have taught 2 different ways of making a daisy chain. So once again, I saw that Yvette has posted over in the chat all of the different hashtags and places that you can follow us and follow Michaels. But I just have to say thank you so much, everyone who participated in class today. And actually, Pam, see, so this is very interesting. As I am signing off and saying goodbye, if everyone could just let me know, or head on over to Beadalon or Michaels and let us know which one you liked better, right? Because I bet that some people liked the first one better and some people liked the second one better. And I would be so curious. We might put that up as a poll actually on the Beadalon Facebook page, just out of curiosity. I love knowing kind of what certain people like and what certain people like better. So very interesting. I'm seeing lots of votes for the first one. So I'm glad I showed that one first. And yes, Finn is here, but he is very, very tired. So he did not make an appearance today. But thank you everybody for joining me today. I see some people are beading along in the photos there. So I very much appreciate that. And I can see Robin is holding up her design. That looks fantastic. Again, if you have made it please go ahead and post that on Instagram, on Facebook, on all of the places. And if nothing else, hashtag make it with Michaels and hashtag make it with Beadalon. So my next class will be in couple of weeks, I think, but 2:00 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on Wednesdays is the Beadalon slot, where you will see either me, Sarah Ellis, or Yvette doing our designs. And thank you, as always, so much for participating. And until next time, happy beading.